computer audio. Editor. Let's prep. Okay, it'd be fabulous if you would get going, Zoom. It'd be great. It'd be wonderful. There we go. Ding dong. Someone's here. No, not what I want. Okay, courses. P7, right?
Sure.
P7?
Sure.
Okay, so you should be on the home page. It looks like a desert background.
Sure.
Okay, here is a test review. So when you go home today, click that, watch that. It's 20 minutes. It's me going over the test after school yesterday. Okay, that's all it is. It isn't the rest of the lesson. It's just me going over the test. Got it? That way you have test review today in class. You have test review tonight at home. And you come in and hopefully tomorrow ace the test. Is that cool?
Okay.
Now, I'm going to pass this out. A black tablecloth, all these little pieces of white look terrible. Don't write on this test. Okay, do not. I don't want to make more copies. I spent enough quality time by myself in the copy room with the copier. It was barely working last night, making your RTI packs. I don't want to spend more time in the copy room again. Okay, so do not write on this. I don't care. Careful asking a sarcastic teacher where to grab a pencil. All right, did everybody get one?
Sure.
I got one? Okay. So now we're going to go to modules. And Megan, if you would like to have a printed copy, I can meet your mom or your dad to give you a printed copy, but there's also, this is posted right in Canvas. It is in here. Okay, I have all the copies of every single page in here. Okay. All right, so everyone, if you'll click Unit 3 Mid-Unit Test, page 1. So we're in modules, Unit 3 Mid-Unit Test, page 1. There's 10 pages to this test. Okay, so that's a lovely image. Very calming looking, beautiful stamp, right? It's like a pastoral landscape, right?
Sure.
What is it, Michaela? I didn't give you one. Well, that is a problem. That's like this beautiful lady's picture there. Hello. Why, sure it is.
That's where it was called. alien colonists. Why am I spread upside down?
Oh, my pictures are here. Okay, so that stamp says all emblems of the effects of the stamp, of the fatal stamp. Okay, so who do you think made that picture of something depicting the Stamp Act? Do you think that was a British person? Do you think that was a British person who made that emblem depicting the Stamp Act, or do you think that was an American colonist? Not British. Someone who's loyal to British made that stamp? A patriot. A patriot. That was a patriot, someone who's really irritated with the British for making the Stamp Act, right? That was them mocking the British and the Stamp Act, right? That's why they put a skull and crossbones on it. Because they were really frustrated with the Stamp Act. Does that make sense? Kind of like propaganda. It's another thing to turn people against the British. It's an image, kind of like a comic book image. Their version of it meant to turn people against the British. Okay, so question 1 says, based on source 1, which of the following best describes what goods the British Empire taxed with the Stamp Act? And I know there's typos in that question. There's a couple of them. What do you think, based on the Stamp Act, that they tax? Sugar, tea, manufactured goods, or paper documents? Manufactured goods? You think they tax manufactured goods? D, paper documents.
Yes, by your name, this is Jalen is now officially sped status. He's initial and then interim and
Now he's full.
yeah, now he's full out. He's good to go. Is he in here?
No, he is right now in Mr. Meter's class. He comes to me second block.
Thank you.
And he sits right, Allie, raise your hand. That's where he sits.
That's right, okay. Second one, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roach. Number 2, still using source 1. What was the most likely reason the British Empire levied taxes onto the American colonies? Select 2 that apply. Just like we've done before. If you don't select both of them correctly, then the whole answer is wrong. Okay? Select 2 that apply. To control trade between the colonies in Europe, to pay for government officials for their loyalty, repay debts gained by fighting in the French and Indian War, to stop trade of goods smuggled from the colonies, or to pay troops to protect the colonies. Which 2 things was a Stamp Act meant to do?
Okay, I know it's C. Everyone knows it's C.
Can everybody agree that C is one of the answers?
Yes.
Okay, C, to help repay for the French and Indian War.
D.
You think it's D?
I think it's E.
Who thinks it's E?
I meant E.
E is the other one, to pay troops to protect the colonies. So it's C as in cat and E as in elephant, the elephant that would squish the cat. Okay. C and E. Okay. The elephant that would squish the cat. Everybody remember that? The cat scared the elephant. Okay. Little things can scare big things. Do not mice scare humans? They don't scare me, but they do scare a lot of people. All right, hit next. Let's get to source 2. Because question 3 asks us about source 2. So you must get to source 2. Bless you.
Is anyone else's stage loading? No. Okay, I just did it.
Okay, listen up, guys. Let me say this again like I did earlier, okay? Mr. Williams is probably going to be observing, bless you, probably going to be observing this classroom on Thursday morning. So I need you guys to not do all the extraneous talking, okay? And Thursday, we will still be doing experiment or discussing experiments. Okay? No, Logan, sit up. Tummy itches. I gave myself one of my shots I'm allergic to last night, right in my stomach. Makes me all itchy. I'm going to take a wild guess. None of you have had to give yourself shots in the stomach, right?
I don't like shots, so I would never do it.
Really? I've got a spot like that big that's hard from the shot. Itches. So yeah, that's why I keep messing with my waistband. Okay, so here's a red coat with his back to this person. This person's looking at this post on the wall that says tax on tea.
It looks like George Washington.
Somebody. Nice legs. The Townshend Acts were a series of measures passed by the British Parliament in 1767 that taxed goods imported to the American colonies. Taxes were imposed on British china, glass, lead, paint, paper, and tea imported to the colonies. More than 2,000 British troops were sent to Boston to enforce the new taxation laws. So looking at question 3, it says, using source 2, what slogan was created by patriots that argued against taxes that were enforced by the Townshend Revenue Acts?
What's the slogan?
Slogan is a saying. What saying
Yeah, we have
was
one
used
4-H too.
against Townshend Revenue Acts? Give me liberty or give me death. No taxation without representation. United we stand, divided we fall. All men are created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Raise a hand. Don't blurt out. Raise a hand. Which of those 4 are the correct answer for Townshend Acts? Kaylee. B. No taxation without representation. Yes. All right. So did you guys talk about give me liberty or give me death in Miss Daniels' class?
Yeah.
You did? Okay. Patrick Henry?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you guys talk about united we stand, divided we fall?
No.
No. Okay. That was a popular saying, but it's not one that you've discussed in 4th grade. I'll just leave it on that one. What about that all men are created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Where did we hear that one? In here, yes, but what was that part of? No. We broke down something and we used pencils or highlighters or pens. Melanie. The preamble. Those are the first words of the preamble. All men are created equal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Townshend Acts, people came up with the slogan, no taxation without representation. Okay. So number 3 is B. Got it? All right. Feel a little bit better? Yeah. Okay. So it's your allergies getting you real bad? My allergies create itchy. Like seriously, I have this big red spot here. All right, number 4, ask about source 3. So we have to hit next again.
No.
Okay, so we're on page 3.
The Boston Massacre?
Not sure because mine is still loading. Mickey? Yes, the Boston Massacre.
It's amazing how only 5 people died during that.
Yeah, the little dog down there.
I'll see all the patriots now.
Okay, so that image was actually part, well, it was, the coloring was added, but that image was actually made by Paul Revere. Mhm. The original image was an engraving by Paul Revere. And do you remember me discussing before, why would Paul Revere make an image that made it look so much more horrific than what it actually was? He wanted what? Why would he make the image? Why would Paul Revere make the image look so much more horrific, so much more violent than what it actually was? Only 5 people died at the Boston Massacre, but look at that picture. It looks like more than 5 people are going to die, right?
Because he wanted to make it look like they were stronger.
No, he wanted to turn people against the British. Look at that picture. It looks like the British are just slaughtering the American colonists, doesn't it?
So he made it look bad on the British.
He made it look like the British were just out to just wipe out the colonists. Isn't that what that picture looks like?
Yeah, but
Pretty much.
But remember, who was the one that started it? The American colonists. But that's not what that picture depicts, is it?
No.
Okay, so let's get to the question. How did the American colonists react to the acts that were imposed onto them by the British Parliament as seen in source 3? That is source 3. Did they protest the acts? Did they boycott British goods? Did they petition British soldiers to stop enforcing the acts? Or did they burn buildings and stores of loyalists?
A or C?
Is that them petitioning to the British soldiers? Are they asking the British soldiers to do something? Or are they protesting the acts? They were protesting. They were protesting. Because how did it start, guys?
Oh, they were throwing ice at the British.
They were throwing ice at the British and they were doing things to aggravate them. That was their way of protesting.
And then it said fire.
And that's what started the gunfire. So it is A. So you have to know the background of that picture to know the answer, don't you? They were protesting. Put the computer down on the screen, on the desk. All right, the next one wants us to look at source 4. So we have to scroll down. Okay, guys, stop with all the noise. Next.
It's black and white.
Boston Port Act. Michaela, you need to pay attention, okay?
Is that called the Boston Tea?
On March 31st, 1774, the British Parliament passed the Boston Port Act to regain control of unruly Massachusetts. The British Parliament closed the port of Boston and insisted it would not be reopened until the British Empire had been repaid for damages caused to the East India Tea Company by the people of Boston. So number 5 says, using source 4, why did the British Parliament impose the Boston Port Act? Increase the pay for troops protecting Boston against unruly citizens, to buy the loyalty of local government officials in Boston, react against the destruction caused by colonists at the Boston Tea Party, or to impose restrictions against the citizens of Boston for causing the Boston Massacre.
I would have to say C.
If you think it's C, raise your hand. If you think it's D, raise your hand. So it's C, isn't it? It was a punishment against the destruction from the Boston Tea Party, yes?
Yes.
It was C as in cat. Okay. So number 6 says, based on all the sources, which statement best describes the lasting impact that the acts had on the American colonists? A, it forced the colonists to protest the acts. B, it made the colonists boycott trade with the British Empire. C, it made the nation choose sides to be loyalists or patriots. D, it led the colonists to declare independence from the British Empire. Ricardo, what do you think it is? What is it? D as in dog, absolutely. So King George continually doing things to make life harder for the colonists actually led the colonists to join together and declare independence. Okay, so like I said before, all the experiences, good and bad, for a person or a country, create that person or country. And in this case, it helped create the United States of America. So D. Turn your test over to the next side. And I'm going to hit next a couple times because page 5 is actually the first page of questions. Page 6 is the second page of questions that we just went through. Page 7 is actually the questions that we're on now. If it'll load up, it'd be great. Okay. Which group of people does the quote right above it best support? England and the colonies have the same roots. A war against England is a war against us. Allie. It is a loyalist. It would not be a redcoat because a redcoat would be an English person. And that quote says England and the colonies have the same roots. A war against England is a war against us. That would not be an English person saying that because a war against England is a war against us. That's coming from the point of view of a person that is loyal to England, but not a person living in England.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Okay, so that would be loyalist. It'd be B. Okay, so good job, Allie. All right. Recognize this image, guys?
Yeah.
All right, so those were colonists dressed up as Native Americans.
I can answer that one.
This event occurred to protest which policy of King George III, Innocente? Quartering Act, troops setting up roadblocks in Boston, Massachusetts Government Act, or T Act? T Act, D. 8 is D.
Troops setting up roadblocks in Boston.
Yes, that looks like roadblocks, definitely roadblocks in the water.
Change the channel.
Okay, so number 9 is a little bit different format, but it's a format that they like to give you on the LEAP test. So that is supposed to be a little table, and those are the contents of the table. And at the top, that slightly grayer area is supposed to be where a title goes. And they want you to find the right title to fit in there. So the contents of the table are what they give you. Colonists not allowed to speak out against the king. Quartering Act forced colonists to house troops. No trial by a jury was promised. Aaliyah, what would be a good title for the table? A, acts imposed by the British Parliament on the colonies. B, patriot slogans against the taxes that were placed on the 13 colonies. C, grievances stated in the Declaration of Independence. Or D, rights given by our Creator that is given to all men. What is it? You said A? No, not A. What do you think, Kimber? What is it? Not B. Megan, what is it?
I think it's C.
It is C. It is grievances. Grievances stated in the Declaration of Independence. Do you remember when we went through the parts of the Declaration of Independence and we were deciphering all the different parts? And we talked about don't quarter, don't chop up a soldier. Quartering.
That's how I knew it.
No trial by jury. That was that last part. And that one thing wasn't really clear, and we kind of interpreted it, and it meant colonists could not speak out against the king. Those were all grievances in the Declaration of Independence. So it's C. Okay. Number 9 is C. Good job, Megan. All right. Number 10. Which statement represents the point of view of a loyalist during the Revolutionary War? Skyuna. Which one would be a loyalist statement? Support independence, long live the king, help the committees of correspondence, or abandon the parliament? This is Skyuna's question. We're on number 10. B, long live the king. So a loyalist is loyal to Britain. They wouldn't say, hey, let's throw away part of our government, abandon the parliament, abandon the people. They would want to support the king. Long live the king. Okay, so a loyalist, loyal to Britain, they wouldn't want to kill their king. They'd want to support their king. Long live the king. Even though the guy was crazy with diseases. Okay, next. Hit next on your computer. All right, so your image in the computer is more clear to understand than the image on your paper. You can, well, if you look at it dead on, you can actually see the stripes for the disputed area between the US and Spain. Okay, the Spanish area looks gray. And then the British area, well, what it says United States is white. Great Britain at the top is dark gray, black. On this, because it was copied downstairs, It's not so clear, is it? You're right. Well said. All right. Sorry, it itches. With Benadryl cream and taking Benadryl pills. This is one, I taught you guys this a long time ago. When the question gives you more than A, B, C, D, they give you an E. How many answers are you supposed to choose? 2. This question forgot to say choose 2 answers, but you're supposed to choose 2. And the way you know that is that they gave you 5 choices. Okay. And I'm going to write that on the board tomorrow. Number 11, and remember this, Megan, okay? Number 11, you have to choose 2 answers, okay? So the question says, which of the following best describes the impact that the end of the Revolutionary War and the Treaty of Paris of 1783 had on the 13 colonies? There's 2 answers. You got to get them both for it to be right. Okay. The colonies no longer had to pay taxes to the British Empire. A new nation was created. Loyalists left and moved to areas occupied by Spain. Land owned by the colonies doubled in size. Or the king removed British troops from the colonies. Logan. Not C. Best 2 answers. D, land owned by colonies doubled in size, yes. And what else? And B, a new nation was created. So it is B as in boy and D as in dog. A new nation was created and land owned by the colonies doubled in size. It's B and D. Okay? Everybody got that? New nation was created and land owned by the colonies doubled in size. Very good. All right. On to the last page, page 10. And here we go to the engraving again by Paul Revere. Yes, because Paul Revere's engravings were typically on silver, so his engraving would have been silver with maybe some ink rubbed into it, so black on silver maybe. Okay, number 12. Paul Revere was a patriot, and he made and distributed this engraving of the Boston Massacre. Which statement best describes why Paul Revere made this engraving? A, good job, Skyuna. A, he wanted to turn the public against the British. That's exactly why. We did. But just like our media today, and you might not even realize it when it's doing it because it's subtle a lot of times. Our media today often will try to influence our opinions. That picture was meant to influence colonists' opinions against the British. Pictures do that. Believe it or not, a lot of pictures are meant to influence people's opinions. Where a photographer puts him or herself when she takes or he takes a picture can change the way the photo looks. And that in itself can affect the way the picture looks and the way it's interpreted by the viewer. There's different ways to influence interpretations. That right there influences the viewer. It makes it look like it's indeed a massacre. Calling it a massacre, doesn't that influence people against British?
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible that 5 people died, yes, but when you think massacre, you don't think 5 people dying, do you? You think it's going to be much worse, right? Well, no, but you're gonna think more than 5 people. And you're not gonna think, oh, well, the Americans are the ones that started it, because that's the reality. Okay. No. All right, so let me pick up the test. Test prep. Well, this is a mid-unit test. Not very long, is it?
In the last game was quick. Yeah, we're done doing stuff for the day.
Okay, need everybody to pull out their packets now. Everybody, pull out their packets. I don't need talking.
What, you need on sliding there?
Tractor's pricing. Tractor's dollars. Tractor's 11.
I'm gonna make it long. I should just come
Megan, do you have video capability on your computer?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you show me your packet real quick? Just for bonus points.
Two devices. My computer is the one that I'm looking at the sources on.
Oh, can you just send me a picture showing me the front of your packet? When you send me your work. Because our work that we're going to do today for points is triangular trade. I have it loaded on today's Canvas page. Okay. So when you send me a picture of your triangular trade work completed, just send me a picture of the front of your Rebellion to Revolution packet too. And it's going to be for bonus points. Okay.
Okay.
Did you find yours? Holy cow. Didn't have any of it done, but I have it finally.
You can go to the assignments and it's right there. Triangular trade.
Okay, guys. So you seated. This is the only other lesson that we had from Unit 2B. It was a little too sensitive a topic for me to give to you as an archaeologist. Okay? Triangular trade, and this is one they do test on. Okay? This you can put away. You don't need it anymore. Your we call it text source.
So take a picture of the computer screen.
What is it, Megan?
So take a picture of the computer screen.
No. Can you take a picture of the packet, the physical packet that I gave your dad that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, I need my friends in my class to stop talking. Taylor.
I want to go there. Oh, we can buy my why would you ride a headband?
Ride one, you eat one.
All we have is wallet.
Okay, so with this one, you can use markers, pens, colors, color pencils.
I can do whatever I want.
You're going to need red, blue, and orange. Red, blue, orange. How do you not have your own materials?
I have mine since they were from school.
Especially since I gave them out at the beginning of the year. Yes, I said red, blue, and orange. You can use whatever, just red, blue, and orange. It can be colors, it can be markers, it can be colored pencils, it can be twistables, it can be pens. Doesn't matter, because this time if it bleeds through, there's nothing on the back. Okay, so I'm going to click next, and that's going to take me to triangular trade text.
And yellow and
No, red, blue, orange. Whoever opened my cabinet next to you, put it back. All right, Nikki. There should not be talking. Red, blue, orange. Okay, so we skipped probably 2/3 of Unit 2B. I thought y'all might appreciate that. But I do need to pick up. My allergies are mostly not running nose, it's sticky. So I apologize. Big old knot right here, right? It's like a heart. More than two. But my migraines are better because it makes my migraines better. So it's win-lose kind of thing. I like it, my migraines better. So we talked about the soil in the New England area. What was the soil like? Was it good for growing things? No. It was sandy and it had a lot of rocks in it. So they could not have big areas to grow crops because the soil just wasn't good for growing things, right? In the middle colonies, so that would be Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, the soil was better. And so they had a little larger farms, but for the amount of things that they grew, they had enough for their family and a little bit extra that they could sell. And they, and sometimes their friends, would be enough to tend to their farms. Okay. In the southern colonies, they had very fertile soil, which we already know that, don't we? We talked about Virginia having a really good soil. So we're in the South. Yes, we have excellent soil. So in the South, their thing that they made money from was farming. And they had very large farms. And they needed a lot of people to work these farms because they sold their goods, their crops. They sold them even overseas, called cash crops, rice, indigo, and tobacco. They were sold overseas. Michaela, I need you paying attention. Okay. It started out that they used something called indentured servants, which were people who were brought from overseas and they worked for free. And they would do this for 4 to 7 years. And after that time, they would be set free. But they would get part of the land that they had worked for. The landowners, after a while, realized, uh-oh, we're going broke because we're having to give away part of our land to these people. That's not working for us. So then they realized we have to do something that's absolutely free to us. And they started bringing over people who were free, which was what? Enslaved people from Africa. Yes.
Well, wait, what are like plantations though?
That's who would be working the plantations, because at first plantations were smaller and people who worked them were the ones who lived there and friends, but then they realized they could make a lot more money if they grew those plantations, and they had people who cost them less money than indentured servants, and who cost them less money were enslaved people. Okay, so we're going to read about triangular trade, because this would be, triangular trade would be the part that would show up on the LEAP test. Okay, it tends to show up on the LEAP test. All right, so I want everybody to either read your computer screen or follow along on the smartboard. Okay.
I'll do something.
England expanded into North America for the sole purpose of gaining resources that these lands provided. England wanted to become powerful and wealthy throughout the world by exporting more than they imported. Remember, export means to send out of their country. Import means to bring into their country. England believed that they could accumulate large amounts of wealth. Wealth just means money. Trade between the colonies and the motherland focused on sending natural resources from North America to England in exchange for manufactured goods that England produced. So that means whoever's clicking the pencils, quit. That means natural resources from the United States would go to England, and England would send manufactured goods to North America. Rarely any gold or silver was exchanged, as the colonies in England kept a balanced exchange of goods. As time passed, demand for England's manufactured goods increased. Africa required such things as cloth, guns, rum, copper, bowls, and beads. The Africans demanded goods that were not available in Africa. To balance the trade between England and Africa, Africa needed to trade something in return. Oh, yeah. Okay, so Africa was wanting manufactured goods. but they needed Africa to send something in return. For centuries, slavery was common in Africa. Warring tribes would enslave prisoners of war and sell these slaves to European kingdoms that approached them. In the southern colonies, demand for free or cheap labor increased. Why would they need free or cheap labor?
Because it would be, so they wouldn't pay, would get free
What would they use people for, free or cheap
to
labor?
work on the plantation.
To work on plantations. Plantation owners saw African slaves as a solution to their problem. The British developed the triangular trade that allowed Africa to receive manufactured goods in return for slaves sent to the colonies. The colonies would repay England for the slaves by sending natural resources to the motherland. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch. We haven't finished reading this yet, but let's switch to our image mate real quick. And let's map out this image. And I knew that was going to switch. Let's do this twice. Okay, so natural resources went from where to where? Oh, haha. Who had the natural resources? Who? Colonies. So the colonies had natural resources and they sent them to England. Okay, so you're going to draw an arrow from the colony, orange arrow, from the colonies to England. That's orange. I know it looks red. That's because Elmo's being weird. That's orange. Orange.
Orange. Yeah, tell me orange.
That's not red, guys. Orange. And I'm going to label this natural resources. So that would be like cotton and lumber. Okay. So natural resources from colonies to England. Then what would England send? No. What would England send? Manufactured goods from England to the colonies. And this is blue. Manufactured goods. Where else did they send it? They sent it to the colonies, but where else do we read that they sent it? Africa, because Africa also wanted manufactured goods. Then what was the other part of the triangular trade? Enslaved people went from where to where? Africa to where? No, the colonies. And this is red. And I chose this to remind us of the pain involved with slavery. And the way I tend to write it is enslaved people. Okay. I cringe saying the word slaves, guys. Enslaved people. Okay. Because for me, this is my family. All right. Red, yes.
It's hard to write in colored pencil.
That's why I said y'all could use marker, pen, crayon, whatever you want to use. Okay. If you want to write slave, if you feel comfortable writing that, go ahead. I don't. I tend to use enslaved people because that's what they are. People. and they were enslaved. Okay. Like I said, I chose red because that's what it involved, life. Okay. So what you're supposed to get out of this is natural resources went from the colonies to England. Manufactured resources went from England to the colonies and to Africa. And enslaved people went from Africa to the colonies. They actually also went from Africa to, and this wasn't part of the triangle, but they actually went from Africa to the Caribbean, and the Caribbean to the colonies too. Okay. Well, what it was in the Caribbean, there was a lot of sugarcane growing. And so people would be sent here to work the sugarcane plantations. And down in the deep south, there was also sugarcane growing. So sugarcane was the hardest thing for people to grow. Very hard on people. It's a very labor intensive crop. All right, everybody have this? Okay, so let's go back to the article. Okay, bless you. So the colonies would repay England for the slaves by sending natural resources to the motherland. In other words, back to England. African slaves were rounded up and shipped across the Atlantic Ocean. This voyage became known as the Middle Passage. The typical slave ships contained several hundred slaves with about 30 crew members. It is estimated that about 15% of slaves would not survive the Middle Passage. To put this in hard numbers, guys, if there were 200 enslaved people on a boat, 30 would not survive. A lot of people, because there would be so many people crowded together. Any kind of person, if they were sick, they would pass on their illness to other people. Bad conditions, not enough water or food to go around, not good air quality below deck. Just people were not taken care of at all. They were treated terribly. Need help. They need medical help, and they would not get it. The conditions were harsh. The cramped quarters allowed disease to move rapidly. When enslaved people reached the colonies, they were sold to plantation owners at auction. Enslaved people were then taken to the plantation to work the fields for free. So there's the article that discusses triangular trade. This down below says describe how the triangular trade operated between England, Africa, and North America. I don't want a paragraph. What I do want are bulleted points. Okay. So tell me with 4 bulleted points how the triangular trade works. 4 bulleted points. Okay. 4 bulleted points. 4 bulleted points.
Can we use the regular one?
4 bulleted points. How the triangular trade works. Bless you. bulletin points.
That is a good one sentence.
It doesn't have to be a sentence, it can be a phrase. I need 4 bulleted points.
If the enslaved people want to go to college,
Like I said, this is the one lesson that tends to pop up on late test, triangular trade. It is, but it's sad, the fact that people was part of triangular trade. But again, I purposely used red to denote life. Life was involved in that trade.
they were forced to.
Yes, against their will.
Man, we could feel it. All the-
Yes. Not talking. Those bonus points sure help some people's grades. Before I add in your triangular trade, just sit your seat. Sit your seat. Before I add in your triangular trade grade, the bonus points were 5 points. Logan, 95A. Skyuna, 96A. Diaz, 88B. Michaela, 95A. Joanna, 80C. Aaliyah, 77C. Allie, 86B. Melanie, 105A. Bryson, 78C. Ricardo, 85B. Haley, 89B. Kimber, 100A. Bonus points helped y'all a lot. Yeah.
Melanie.
Triangular trade is going to be worth 10 points. The mid-unit assessment, we went over the 12-point questions today. I'm going to put a question on the test tomorrow about this. It'll be proposed.
Yay.
Okay. So there'll be one other question.
Yes.
There's a bunch of people in my second and third block who need help. 12 plus 1 bonus point.
And that's 13 points.
13 possible. So 12 possible plus 1 bonus. Okay, guys, you need to be working on your 4 bulleted points.
What do we do?
Oh, okay, okay. If you could just keep your head in the door and just ask if there's any questions sometime during the meeting, that'll be fine.
I need my friends quiet. Only done 35.
Maybe some of these people don't have time as well, too. Okay. Yeah, it might be good for you to make mention of that, because she was concerned about some of his praise. It wasn't yours at the time, it was math, but the math was actually somehow or other showing up. It was. But I took him down her grade went down a little bit second 9 weeks, but he was gone for a good. And that's what we got to discuss whether or not he did.
On video, he keeps interrupting. I keep forgetting that I have to do people in this classroom. I've got to teach.
Right.
I can't have him with random
Just
stuff.
like you couldn't have him doing it here, you couldn't have him doing it on there either.
Keeps interrupting. I was losing my mind the other day. I mean, it's about random stuff.
So you might want to talk because what is the meeting's just coming. He's gonna kind of go into virtual for a while or something. So you might want to explain to her the etiquette of virtual as a student. You know that far better than I do, so just kind of give her some P's and Q's on what they have got to do. Thank you.
All right, guys, raise your hand if you're done with your 4 bulleted points. Okay. Put it on your desk. I'll right. Okay. The talking over there needs to stop. Okay, who else is finished?
I don't have that page. I sent you the front of the packet that he gave me.
It's not in the packet. It's in, see, here's this page. If you go to next, worksheet is right here. If my page will load up. There you go. It's right in here, okay? So if you could print, you could do it in there, okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to take a picture of this and put it in Dojo. Sure. Bless you. I just private messaged through Dojo a picture of mine with the added triangular trade drawn on, okay? The bulleted points, all right? So add on the 4 bulleted points that you'll get from the text, which is the previous from this, and send that to me via picture. And that's it for the day, okay? Do you have any questions, Megan?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right, then I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the lesson for the day, okay?